Okay, you guys both ready?
Yep.
As ready as we can be.
We're just gonna fucking wing it. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to back to Hammers and Dice. A lot has happened the last 24 hours in the Horus Heresy world, to put it mildly.
Yeah, big exciting news.
I am
Yeah.
dead.
We
I
have,
I'm
I
I'm
mean,
burying myself underground 6 feet. Wake me up when fourth edition comes.
the Horus Heresy website did come out, what was it, almost a week ago now? So
Yeah,
had the kind of like it's coming-ish,
yeah.
but then the
And it was
box
funny
just dropped.
the day that that it leaked yesterday, we were, even chatting before, like, okay, let's all clear our schedules so we can talk about it after the event, when it's gonna happen in Dallas in a couple of weeks. And like then by 8 p.m. that night, it was like, hey, by the way, the box is leaked. So we emergency put together a call because we were like, we've seen a lot of other people talk about it, but we wanted to give our own kind of thoughts and opinions. And I'm ready to hear Esteban. He's been very against the idea of third edition, and he's
Yeah.
about to regale us with
For anybody who
why
hasn't
waking up
watched
this
our
morning.
previous episodes where we've talked about third edition, I've kept up with the rumors a lot, and it's been very, very consistent that this box was going to come, like, to the point where it was like exact models. Like, I think Valrak,
Yeah, they had
other
it.
people all were like, this is exactly what's going to happen. We don't know when, but it's happening. And I believe them.
Hmm.
And someone has been very anti third edition for a while.
I'm in denial. In fact, I'm still convinced this is actually a psyop by GWHQ. This is actually all just a photo generated image that they've gone in and touched personally, just to pull the wool on our eyes on
Hmm.
come 2 weeks and be like, JK, no heresy. It's just a new box with this models. It's not a new rule set. It's just a new army box. I'm
Sure.
praying. I'm praying. I'm in denial. I'm in
You
major
know,
denial.
if that Saturnine the Saturnine Dreadnought didn't look so good, I would have maybe said it was like a Golden Custodes,
Yeah, it looks like a
the
Telemon.
Telemon.
It looks,
Yeah,
yeah,
like I assume that's where they took a lot of the inspiration for the
yeah.
pattern. I was
And
like,
yeah,
if that had looked more photoshopped, I would have been like, okay, I might not consider it. But I wanted to also say, like, the Horus Heresy was on a great like marketing point. Like, I thought it was a really fun way of engaging with us. Like when most of us had known about this for a long time, like you mentioned, Randy, and now they were kind of playing into it. So I wanted to get kind of mention that it's been really fun watching that, and I'm kind of sad not to get it as much, but
yeah.
I'm super hyped to see the new box, and so we're going to talk about our opinions and give a breakdown of what we're hoping to see.
Yeah, who wants to read? You want to start us off? Why don't you give us your first reaction to the box?
Well, I guess like my first reaction is like I really like I've never been I've never cared for Saturnine Terminators as like a specific unit of like seeing that model like other people have made themselves, and like I've never had a calling to get them, but I did see that box and I was like immediately, I'm gonna need to add those to my salamanders. Which actually really, if you looked at my salamanders, like I sent a picture to the group tonight. I've been painting a herald for them. Like that feels like one of my first salamander things I've actually done for this edition, because like all of my other focus is going elsewhere, because that's been kind of my old, Mark of Cal slash burning a Prospero scale army. Um, so I haven't added as much, but I saw those dreadnoughts, and the dreadnought, and I saw the Terminators, and I was like, I have to have those.
Those are gonna
And I'm
go
really
look
excited.
fucking massive compared to the
Yeah,
rest of your salamanders army.
I bet they will. And like, I actually don't mind that for the Terminators, at least. I think those will actually like look pretty well scaled. I think the Praetor in Saturnine armor looks amazing. Really like his. I can't wait to see clearer images of him. And then obviously, like I'm a Salamander player through and through, and so like to see them get the front center stage, I'm really excited to see that. I'm hopeful that we can get more kind of more instances with them, and like I think I mentioned it before, but there is an amazing short story called Deeds Endure, where it's one of the best points in time where you actually get to see the salamanders do something. I think it's actually at the World of Bot. So it's like one of these World Eater inducti factory worlds, basically. Like it's the World Eaters trying to turn out inducti, and the salamanders and the Iron Hands show up to fight them. And they're in this kind of special pattern armor that is suggested to be kind of Saturnine-esque, but maybe it's been directly forged by Vulcan. as almost a proto Centurion armor, and I actually really see that in the design elements for what the Saturnine Terminators are, and I think that's a really cool kind of tie into what the future that we know of in 40K, obviously with that kind of introduction of the Centurion style armor. So not to ramble on too much, but like I really saw those and I was like, I have to have those, and like, and I'm really hopeful. Final thing, give me the Praetors. I can't wait. I need the Salamander Praetors finally. So I'm pretty excited right now, and I can't kind of get over that.
Esteban, how
So
about
Esteban, tell me why I'm wrong.
you? Tell us how terrible this is.
I was gonna say I won't ever criticize someone for being excited about a product, especially even if it's a product I don't exactly endorse and or believe is real. But it's interesting. It's a very similar setup to the current Age of Darkness 2.0 box. You got 40 Marines, two Praetors, some Terminators, and a Dreadnought.
And the gun
No
emplacement.
Spartan. You get
The
a
gun
gun
emplacement.
emplacement, which I think is a good, interesting piece of terrain, I'd say. I don't think, based on experiences with other emplacements and terrain pieces for armies, it's probably not going to be used. It's not going to be that great. I would love to just buy all of these though that are going to be no doubt on the secondhand market because I would love to just kind of make fortress walls with reed stuff and put those guns on top because
Oh
these
yeah,
things look
man.
those just this very
That sculpt,
crappy
like it'll
grainy
look
image
good.
looks amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and like I think that idea, like sorry, not Esteban, not to cut in too much, but like, what if they're adding it in an addition? Like, should fortifications be coming back in some kind of way of like, taking an
ooh.
additional thing, like, because I think it'll feel more of a fast attack tarantula kind of
You're
slapping
hitting
into
a thought
thing.
on the head right there because I we'll talk about that later about what we
Yeah,
Yeah.
expect
but
for
We'll
like
the
get
I
more
wanted to
into
addition.
what
just
we
throw
want to
that in there and get
see.
you guys thinking about that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
no, I legitimately I'm excited for this box. I think it's very, very, very good for an introductory box. Am I excited for Saturday Terminators? Hit or miss. They look cool. They remind me of the old Rogue Trader edition Terminator armor. They are kind of funky looking there with their I think it looks like it's some kind of form of disintegrator weapon on some of them, and then other ones
Yeah.
have
Yeah,
twin plasma weapons of some sort. Kind of an awkward choice. I mean, as a Dark Angels player, I love plasma, but even I can see two plasma guns is a little too much.
oh, I don't
And
know,
I
I'm kind of excited for it.
and this Saturnine Dreadnought doesn't look too bad. It just looks a little too much to me like a Leviathan. So it kind of makes me kind of think like, why bother doing another heavy Dreadnought? I would have much rather have preferred a Castroferum redo, honestly. But personal opinion. But I do enjoy GW going out and making something new for an old piece of history in the 40K universe. So having Saturday Dreadnought, perfectly fine. I think that's cool. Um, yeah. So I'm just in denial. It's not real. It's all photoshopped.
Yeah,
GW is
it's
gonna
not
pull
third
wool over
edition.
us.
I'm the thing
Well,
that
that was
I
exciting to get the confirmation as well, and like see it in that description of
yeah.
what comes in the box, third edition rulebook. That was a cool thing.
I mean, the thing that I find really fascinating is, I mean, I'm in a lot of like chat, like heresy chats and like the Facebook and WhatsApp and Discord. And it's insane how divided the community is over this box. I have seen everything from people who absolutely love it and want to buy a dozen copies to people who are like, this is trash and everything in between,
Mhm.
which is, I mean, it's no surprise that the horsey community never agrees on anything, but it's just such a
Sure.
stark,
Heresy players having
uh,
a civil
Well,
debate. This is the
can
Horus
I?
Heresy, Age of Darkness, not Parliament.
I
but
haven't heard as many people that have said like, "Hey, I don't like the skull." Like, I mean, like, I guess like the only thing that bugs me a little bit is like Mark II. I feel like is a limited use for a lot of Marine legions. So it's like, is that what most people are saying, or like, what's kind of the
honestly, no.
behind the
Like
scenes?
what I've seen, a lot of people are loving the Mark II. A lot of people hate Saturnine.
Mm,
It's a lot of either love or hate the Saturnine. Nobody, being the gun emplacement, I haven't heard anyone say a word about the gun emplacement. People are,
You've
I think,
gotten good
like,
pictures of
glancing
that one.
over it like it's literally part of the terrain in the box. Like, oh, this isn't even there. But it's yeah, it's either love or hate for the Saturnine, the Terminators, and the Dreadnought. And for me personally, I my first glance, I really liked the Dreadnought, and I didn't love the Terminators as much, but I think I want to see them in person before I really judge them, like especially to see if how posable they are, because I
Mhm.
feel like GW on their official box art tends to use the most boring pose imaginable for their stuff, like especially their dreadnoughts, which most of their dreadnoughts are actually very posable and you can do some really cool stuff with them. But when you
Yeah.
do that kind of just like stiff squat pose, it makes even cool models seem kind of derpy sometimes. Uh, so I'm very curious to see if they're monopose like the cataphracti are, or if there's a little bit more leeway in how you can put them together.
I think what's helpful for me has been that connection point, though, of thinking them as like centurions. Like the minute you take them away from being like, okay, they have to look like a Terminator, though, to the point of like heavily armored, assault, heavy, they should almost be bulky three, each of these. And I think they probably will be as far as like they're a three
Yeah.
count model
I'm imagining them
for a
kind of having
squad,
rules similar to the Death Round, where it's like 3 wound,
probably.
T5 or
So
battle hardened,
I, I could imagine them like once again, you take it away from the idea that they have to look like a Terminator, like they're proto Centurions, and I think they can fill that kind of role really interestingly. Um,
Yeah, I just hope that there's ability to add a little bit more dynamism to them. Not
sure,
necessarily that they need to look like a cataphracti does, because I don't care about that. But it's that it was the issue with the Contemptor in the Calth box that like was really tough to pose. And like I love the Contemptor model; it's a really cool model. But
oh
that one
yeah,
specifically,
it's kind
you
of bad
lose
at the time.
something like yeah, like it's you compare the way Contemptors look now to that one,
Yeah,
even though it's
they've
very
come
similar,
such a long way.
not
If we had
having the
had, yeah,
posability, it like
yeah,
really hurt the cool vibe of it, you know.
that did.
But yeah, so that got leaked, and then not even an hour later, GW released like an emergency article, basically saying that there's what 399 hours until Esteban drop, which I'm assuming is either when they're going to do a reveal show or just put up on pre-order. We don't know. I mean, so we're recording this Tuesday night. Who knows if Wednesday there will be anything or if there will be a Heresy Thursday. I don't think that they quite know how they're going to address this leak yet. Today just kind of seemed to be damage control with how what they released on the Heresy site. Uh, so yeah, I don't know, but so many other people have theory mongered that, and we don't need to be adding more to that voice. So I think we want to do something a little different and just talk about what we want to see in 3.0. Now that we know it's happening, what would you each like to kind of see happen?
Oh man, I've got a list here actually. Mind if I kind of start actually?
Go for it.
Please
All
do.
right. So it's a new rule book. I know I don't believe in it, but just for the sake of the theoretical here, what should this new rule book address? And I think there's a few things, but I think in my mind at least the important things, and it's three of them, is addressing reactions, kind of a rework of how vehicles work, and then a bit of a universal special rule cleanup, honestly. Those are the three things I'd like to see, at least from the core standpoint. And reactions, I think everyone's complained about it to hell and back, but it's just the shooting reactions. Those they're just a little too strong. Just tone it down a little bit, and maybe just make a hard limit of one reaction per unit per battle round. I think that would solve 90% of the complaints right there without having to touch anything else on reactions. Because I love reactions. I really do
Yeah,
think they're a cool part. I just a little too strong on the few of them.
I think it should be limited to one shooting reaction. Like I don't mind if you can do, a different reaction each phase as long as you can only do one shooting reaction per turn, right? Because I would be okay if they're like, okay, we intercept and then we evade. And like I wouldn't mind that. But yeah, like a last cannon team being able to intercept, then return fire, then overwatch is
It's a lot.
yeah.
It is. And again, I think it's just one reaction per unit per battle round. I think that's actually the quick fix. What about you, Randy or Reed and Randy? What do
You
you
go,
guys
Randy.
have?
Randy,
Reed
I'm
and
happy
Randy.
for you to take it. I mean, like, I'm still kind of I'm
Yeah.
not
I
really
mean,
sure
I've
exactly
got
what
a
I'm going to change. I
few.
have a few things, but I can
Yeah.
hear what you say.
Uh,
Yeah.
it'll be very interesting to see if they're going to fully replace the Liber books and the campaign books, or if they're just going to do like big FAQs for them and just keep the main rule book. Obviously the new box has I think 3 or 4 brand new units in it, so we're gonna need either a new Libra book or a new campaign book to fill in the points for like those. But that being said, regardless of whether or not they do new books, hopefully they are going to do points adjustments for units. I don't know that most units necessarily need to have their profiles radically changed, but there definitely needs to be a little bit more of a balancing in terms of, how undercosted or overcosted certain things are. Just something that comes to the top of my mind because I'm building an Emperor's Children army right now. The Palatine Blades are very similar points wise to the Reavers for the Sons of Horus. And they are just a far better unit. It's crazy. Like because they all have Artificer armor. They come stock with Charnable sabers, whereas the Reavers are 3-ups and come with chain axes. And yes, you can upgrade them to have different weapons, but they'd get even more expensive than the Palatine Blades at that point. And then obviously the Suzerain, which, the Ultramarines, there's so many units that I don't care that they're good units, but the points need to be adjusted for that or lowered for units that aren't as good. There's a lot of Legion specific units that are really cool and fun units that just need to be balanced better.
So I think what I'd like to see is the idea that troops go back to scoring, line is objective secure. I think that's one thing I missed from last edition, where there's so many rights of war that are not all written equally, where some grant line to, like, hey, you get the special unit, it can be your troops, but it doesn't get line. It really hamstrings you in kind of being able to play that right of war to the thematic point. Where in the previous edition, making them go into troops allowed them to fill that role of objective collecting. But obviously, Lion gave him that kind of supremacy that I think was a really cool dynamic point for the previous edition.
Yeah, I mean, I never played 1.0, so I can't speak to that, but it sounds interesting.
It's
There's
very
definitely,
much like a sixth/seventh edition, I think, thing, right? Because I think that's where
Yeah,
that was a primary.
I think because that's where uh, edition one was at the time was at 6, and tail like 1.5 was 7 basically.
yeah,
But it was a really cool point in the game where, like, once again, if like you can get something to be in your troop slot via other, kind of cool, kind of what, those Rite of Wars or taking specific, Centurion slash Praetor slash, special characters. I thought it was a really cool just point in the game that is missing a little bit right now. I think we would see fewer like heralds at that point in time, because if you're able to, make your special character squad, your special squad that would normally need a herald to make them scoring, and now all of a sudden, taking Pride of the Legion and making them, a troop so that now they can score if they
yeah.
kill the opponent's
I'm
other squad.
I mean, especially right now, it feels a little bit arbitrary. And this is just like a general issue with the rules writing on 2.0, which is it doesn't always feel cohesive. It feels like there's different rules written by different people that never cross-checked what they were each doing. And so that's a big thing I think that would hopefully they'll fix. Because you talk about like one thing is interesting is like charging, disordered charges. The phrasing is really confusing versus like a successful charge versus a disordered charge. Because it says a disordered charge blocks a lot of special rules, but technically a successful charge, you're making it into combat. So it's a successful disordered charge. Like the phrasing has never quite made sense. So there's some rules where even to this day, I'm not sure whether or not being disordered blocks that rule from going off. And that's just one example. There's a lot of things where just the phrasing is very confusing. And I think I know the rules of 2.0 about as well as anybody. And
Yeah, you do.
there's still rules where I don't know how they're supposed to work. And just getting those rewritten and also more concise. Because there's sometimes where there's a half page for a rule that could probably be written better in 2 to 3 sentences and make more sense.
Agreed, agreed. No, the all of the special rules I think do need a little bit of a clean up slash maybe a little bit of rework. I will say just like the biggest one I think is just night fighting, honestly. I think that one is a little bit overpowered for what it does, especially considering It ignores the night fighting limitations, the -1 ballistic skill,
Yeah.
the -1 leadership, and you ignore Shroud on top of all that. That one
That
is just
that's
such a
on my list.
busted.
Yeah, that's on my list too. I think that it shouldn't ignore Shroud. I
Yeah, no, that one needs a little bit of a rework. And then, to be honest, I also feel like breach rending should just kind of be pushed into one item. I like breaching for what it does, but really it's just rending with less things attached to it. I kind of feel like it's an unnecessary rule.
I think it's just like a nicer kind of like it's a toned down version that you can kind of understand is the same thing, but it definitely isn't as good. There are definitely points in times where they kind of, there are things that do the similar things, but they're kind of lesser versions.
Yeah,
yeah.
no, agreed.
I,
Um, I will say the one thing I do want to see is them redo mission rules. Specifically, I want them to bring environmental rules in as a main core because right now we've got environmental rules for the campaign books, but I'd
Yeah.
like for them to kind of take like the favorites and kind of toss them in there as a chart. Like make night fighting an environmental rule, make sandstorms or limited visibility a special rule, make things
Yeah.
that change the game in a unique way that you can use optionally or not. And on top of that, and I think I'm going to get some hate for this, is secondaries. I kind of feel like they've always been a bit boring because they've copied the format of 6th, 7th edition, where it's this set of secondaries, you always use them. I'd like them to kind of maybe adopt what 8th and 9th did, which was, hey, here's a list of secondaries you can choose from when you start the game. Pick 3 out of a list of 10. I'd like to see that be brought in because I liked when I was getting
or
back
you
into
just randomly
40K.
roll for them. You roll 3 dice, and
Yeah.
whatever
Uh,
those are the
I
three.
don't like randomly rolling for things like objectives because that always gives you the feels bad of my list can't accomplish an objective or can't do
But
this or
second,
it's
but I
not.
mean, for secondaries, the whole point is that they're supposed to be, like a random secondary objective. Like they're not necessarily game winning unless you have a really close game. I
That's
don't
I
true.
know.
think I'm with Esteban that you should be able to choose them. I think that's like kind of you picking as like a tactical commander, like what
Or maybe you
you in
each
this
choose one
place
or
would be
something.
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, the problem with choosing them is I can see there being issues where someone's like, oh, well, I know that this would benefit you, so I don't want to pick it. Stuff like that. Whereas if it's randomized or if you're each picking different rules, you're not having right at the beginning of that game that butting heads of trying to outmatch each other with better secondaries.
You do make a point there. It is bringing in that competitive aspect that 8th and 9th really fostered. But again, it's me just kind of thinking more like a fluff line, like, hey, if I'm playing a Dark Angels army and I want to be really close combat focused, what if there's a secondary that allows me to win points by issuing challenges? I want to pick that. Things like that. Things that would not necessarily make a swing a game, but things that would add fluff to your army building, essentially. So you're building your army for that secondary that you want to choose.
Speaking of challenges, that's a nice segue into another thing that needs to be fixed. Challenges. I think, I mean, I'm of two minds here because on the one hand, it really sucks when you've got a strong, praetor who gets challenged by an apothecary or a sergeant, and you just can't get out of it. Your wounds don't spill over. Like that's really frustrating when you get stuck with that. On the other hand, for me, for like the demons, what comes to mind, like the big archdemons, the only way to survive a combat with them is to challenge them because they're just so crazy overpowered. And then maybe that's just an issue with the demons rules.
That's like apparently what you're supposed to do against Fulgrim Transfigured is like never actually to fight him besides
Because
in a
well, actually, Fulgrim
challenge.
Transfigured has to challenge.
Yeah,
In his rules that
Oh,
he has to accept and issue challenges, and which is why he's terrible. Um,
because then he can only
now
kill that one. Yep.
wait
I
a
think
minute.
the
It seems like
spillover
the
was good last edition. I didn't mind it last edition. It kind of made sense that, the champion has been defeated and now, as far as it's at the correct initiative step, that, that person kind of starts whirling through his enemy.
yeah,
that's true.
I think so. I think that the wounds not spilling over, it needs to go. I think overall it would be a better play experience for everybody if the wounds spilled over, because I think it would encourage people to do more challenges, unless it's, two praetors fighting each other for the fluff, or you're trying to be really tactical about killing an apothecary or something. Challenges seem to have fallen a little bit by the wayside. And I almost never issue challenges in the game unless I'm trying to, block up someone's Praetor or their Primarch or something.
It's funny you say that, Randy. I feel like I challenge a lot with like my bare ass sergeants who are just like, with their like they're just on my tactical marines with like a chain bayonet and like a will to survive, and they're like, all right, I didn't hear no bell, let's go.
Damn straight. Always take a
I
sergeant with a power sword or lightning claw.
I like the idea of at least like taking out somebody's leadership if they even have a shot. Like, I mean, like, I'm not saying like, I'm trying to challenge like a praetor, with my sergeant or anything like that. Of course, like that's a pretty good idea, obviously to tie him up. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not expecting him to win in those situations.
Yeah.
It's true, it's true. Although I will say, if we're gonna fix challenges, I think we need to fix two weapons, and that's power fists and thunderhammers. They're too cheap right now for sergeants and other non-special characters. We gotta jack up the price on those things. Thunderhammers need to be
Think
at least
so?
40 points.
Well,
No, and they're too expensive.
I think what
And yet everyone takes one at 30 points currently.
Thunderhammers need to be strength 7, and that will fix them. I think
Strength 7,
Thunderhammers
brutal
being strength
2.
7, brutal 2 is the perfect way to fix them. Where you're not being instant killed, but you're still having to roll the 2 dice, which also balances them with power fists. Because right now, if you have the option between a power fist and a thunderhammer, you always take the thunderhammer. If thunderhammers are strength 7, then you have a little bit more of an incentive to do a power fist instead. Because then it's a little bit of like, well, you're dealing with the feel no pain and you're dealing with them being able to pass different rolls versus the instant death of the power fists. So to me, I would love to see that change with Thunderhammers.
Alternative
Thunder Hammers are
idea.
supreme. You can't change it now.
No, alternate idea. Make thunderhammers two-handed so you can't get an extra attack for the nonsense of a bolt pistol. But make
Thunderhammers are specialist
It's a
weapons.
Oh,
specialist
there?
weapon, yeah.
Oh,
You can
sorry.
get
Okay.
the bolt pistol.
Well, never mind. I must be playing against people who bring a Paragon blade with it or something. But no, make them two-handed so you can't get a bonus no matter what you do. And
Yeah.
then make
Unless
power
you take another
fists.
specialist weapon. So, like, if you take a Paragon Blade and a Thunder Hammer.
Well, if the Thunderhammer is two-handed, then you wouldn't get the buff anyway. Two-handed weapons
Right.
don't get the
Yeah,
+1
that's
for.
that. Yeah, you don't get the bonus for two weapons. So make it two-handed. I think you need to get rid of brutal on it because I think that's what kind of puts it over the edge. Leave it strength 8 AP2, but just make it two-handed.
But then what's the difference between that and a power fist?
I miss
Make
it
it
when it had
strike at initiative.
concussive,
Make it strike at initiative?
Yeah.
or give it concussive like last edition, where, like, if you deal a wound to somebody, it knocks them to initiative 1. It's really
Eh,
fun.
Actually, kind of
that's
cool.
interesting, but if you're getting hit by Thunder, you're probably dead already.
Oh,
Like it
but,
only
like,
it
I mean,
only
like,
really
all of a
affects
sudden,
dreadnoughts, I would say.
I mean, if you hit the Primarch with it, then all of a sudden, they can't change their initiatives this edition. The
Yeah.
last edition, that was a big thing to fight them with. But yeah, you're right. I think that, like, you have them going against dreadnoughts, they might do a lot better with concussive.
Yeah.
I think the problem is if you take away brutal 2 from them, they don't do enough damage to make Terminators kind of worth it.
I mean, that's what like, I think the Brutal 2 is cool, but the Strength 7 is what would balance them, I think. Because the likelihood of passing both brutal saves is not high. When you're talking about a 4-up cataphractic. Because I mean, whenever you were going against a Thunderhammer, you're like, oh yeah, they're dead. At least there's a little because Terminators can't generally don't have a field up hand anyways. So it's not like they're getting the 4-up and a 5-up. They're usually just having their invulnerable save. So it balances out. You're still dealing with the brutal 2. You still could die, but you're not as likely to be instant killed.
Is there any other main rulebook issues people want to
Actually,
touch
yes.
on?
Seize the initiative.
Oh,
I
you don't
think
like that?
I think seize the initiative needs it's it's too strong for no downside right now. I think it's such a feels bad when you get seized on and it just like ruins your game. I mean, not necessarily. I've still won games where I've been seized on, but it's just such a feels bad moment that puts you on the back foot. And I get that's kind of the point. But I think there should be a drawback to trying it, being where it's like, okay, like one idea that I have that I actually would like to implement, uh, if we do an event before the new edition comes out, which is not likely, what I would probably try to do is if you try to seize the initiative and you fail, then you can't react in the first turn. And it's
See,
like
like
we
I
tried some
think
kind of
that the
gambit and it messed up, you know?
yeah. Sorry, Randy, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I just think that the idea of it is like, oh yeah, you're trying to counter strike your enemy, but there should be a consequence if you fail, right? So that's what I think is there should be something. I don't know, like that's my idea. I don't know if there's a better idea, but just something where it's just like there's got to be a reason to second guess doing it. So you're not just, oh yeah, it's an auto roll at the beginning of every game.
And the counterpoint to that, though, I think going first is a far stronger advantage than getting seized on. Like that's something like to be able to roll and get priority and
I
advantage
disagree
to be
because
able
if
to.
you're, I mean, yes, you have an advantage
Sure.
going first, but when you're going second, you're seeing where your opponent is deployed and you're
Mhm.
able to hide your units or position units to counter them. So,
Totally.
unless you're on a board that has like fuck all terrain, like most games, if I'm going second, like I can make it so the guy going first can't shoot anything, or can not shoot much. And really,
Absolutely.
I
I'm
can't
not
because
saying
my
it's
first turn.
it's the wrong thing, and I think that there are some benefits of going second. Like definitely there are, and especially now with reactions. I still play in a first edition mentality where like going first kind of definitely gave you a big points advantage, and that
Yeah.
you got the first turn of shooting, and there was nothing you could do about it. I think that it's there though to make sure that the person who's going first isn't so sure about themselves. Like they have to think a little bit more tactically than just like, all right, I'm going to go as aggressive as possible because I'm guaranteed, the first turn. It's really though that 1 in 6 chance that is not there for feel bads, but to make sure that your opponent is still playing the kind of not correct way, but like with a tactical sense in mind that things can go bad quickly. And even on the first dice, really, things can go wrong. And you have to be able to adapt. And if
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
misdeployed because of that,
I understand
that
that's the
happens.
intent, but I don't know many people who actually enjoy. I mean, it's great when you do it, like when you get the C's off, but like it is a feels bad if you're going first and you get seized on. Like it just is. Like it's one of those rules where when you're playing against a certain, I don't know, there's certain rules in the game where when you're playing against them, you just like sigh, right? You're just like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
have to deal with it. And that doesn't mean that you're gonna have a terrible game and that like you're just gonna walk away because it's like, oh, well, this happened. But it's just a thing that always when it happens, you just don't feel good about it.
I was gonna say the 1 in 6 chance is what makes those games the most memorable games. It's when you seize or when you get seized on that you're like, oh, this is gonna be a memorable fight now because now things are going smashingly poor for the person who's going first. And I see
And
that point,
that's,
Randy, but it's fun.
yeah,
It's fun.
Uh,
I want to go and talk on to the next thing. Okay.
yeah,
This is my topic
go
now.
for it.
So we're moving into the third edition. What do you want to see as far as like new models or like new lore and new stuff like that? Because like, the first thing I want to kind of bring up is like we are definitely seeing more transfigured Primarchs, and there's been this like kind of rumor of maybe us getting a new Rogal Dorn who's kind of more action packed pose for the Siege of Terra. Are you
Yeah, I heard
guys
of that
feeling
too.
any hype for that kind of stuff?
Mm,
I think so.
nothing.
I mean, anytime there's more Primark stuff, I get excited. I get a little tingle. I'll never say
Mm-hmm.
no to more Primark stuff, even if I don't necessarily want it myself.
Totally.
I'm always
Um,
down for it.
I would say I think all the Primarchs are in their current forms, pre-transfigured for those who have transfigured versions, are perfectly fine. With I think the exception of maybe original Fulgrim is maybe the worst sculpt of them all. But even then, I think they're all perfectly fine and serviceable. If we got updated sculpts of any of the loyalist Primarchs for the Siege version, that'd be cool to get a cool new Jagati or a cool new Dorn or Sanguinius. Those would be cool.
We
Getting the rest
forgot
of the
the other one
transfigured.
that we need.
Uh,
Vulcan.
Vulcan's literally in the webway the entire time. He's soloing
You say that
Magnus the
though,
entire time. We don't need we
but
can get a special diorama version of Magnus transfigured
I would
versus
love to see that.
Vulcan
Can we get a
reborn.
can we get a Vulcan
But
skeleton walking back from the webway dragging his
hey,
hammer?
that's blasphemous there. But it's funny though. The current Vulcan model is absolutely him on Isstvan 5. Like I know that that's the intention as well. Like everyone, there's no kind of hiding that fact. But by the time he gets to Terra, he's literally 0% of that gear. Like he loses his everything. Like he even has like a different hammer by that point in
Yeah.
time. We need a new Vulcan model.
Yeah, I want a new Gilliman model. Like, I like the Gilliman model. Like, it feels very classic Roman-esque. But like, I want like Gilliman, like the cover of Mark of Calth, where he's just
Hmm.
fucking enraged in space, just destroying word bearers left, right, and center. And that to me would be such a cool model.
Maybe these could actually all just be Forge World specials, and it would be an excuse to just go to Warhammer World and pick them up. That's what those should be.
Don't tempt me. I will go back to war. I will
it's
do it again.
it's how the UK government will get as many Americans to fly back over with their new silly travel rules. We'll just keep releasing new Primarch models and make them Warhammer World exclusives. That'll make them come back over. We'll get them over.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be really cool. I'm also, I mean, we've talked about this before. There's still so many basic units that need to be imported over from resin into plastic. The fact that we don't have the breachers yet, and recons and seekers. We don't even have seeker like because I kind of want to build a seeker squad. They don't even sell the guns for them anymore. There's no way to make seekers. I mean, yeah, except for custom or 3D printed, which again, it's like GW. If you don't want people to 3D print shit, then fucking make it. Make something for me to buy so I don't have to go buy it from somewhere else. It's that simple.
I was gonna say,
Sure.
there's tons of little scopes from all the Space Marine kits over the years. Just grab a couple of those and toss them on bolt guns, and then get some
I don't think, I
boxes and
mean,
put them on the bags.
none of the plastic heresy stuff has scopes.
No, no, none of that. But a lot of, you
Not
know
any of
what?
that
A
stuff.
lot
Yeah.
of the Primaris stuff has multiple
I have
scopes on
never
it.
bought that. I fucking hate the look of Primaris so much.
Guess what?
It's one of the main
Don't come in there with that
reasons.
There's
kind of
tons of
language here,
current
Esteban.
players who have tons of
It's
extra bits. Just go play
Yes.
nice with them for a weekend and say,
one
"Hey,
of the
bro,
main reasons that I
cool
never got back
Primaris
into
Marines."
40K is because I think the lore behind Primaris is kind of cool, except I hate the names of their squads. But the names of the squads and the models, it just feels like anime to me in the worst way.
I do not like the cookie cutter look of them. I do love my classic, what is it, fifth edition tactical squad where you
Oh
can
yeah.
mix and match all their armor. That was peak Space Marine tactical squad there.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't want to digress too much into a
right.
I'm hopeful that we see more Dark Mechanicum though in plastic. I
Oh
think that
yeah.
would be a really cool addition. It looks like there's a new knight that just came out for 40K. It'd be cool to get that imported. One thing that came up in Legion Imperialis that we haven't seen in our edition for Horus Heresy Age of Darkness was a drop pod shield generator. How cool would that be for some themed
Mm.
armies? So
That'd
like
be really
it came out in the drop pod art or drop pod stuff for their heavy support, but like be a really interesting thing of like drop that thing back there and create like a 5 up invulnerable shield within 5 inches. Like that could be something really kind of cool and interesting.
So I know they did announce drop pods getting redone in 40K, and they have like a two kit now.
Right.
That would be interesting to see, maybe like a Forge World special where they make a resin upgrade to turn those drop pods into either a Deathstorm or that shield generator drop pod. I think that would be cool.
the problem with
That's
that is
fun.
like a resin upgrade would just be so expensive.
Mhm.
And
Like
we know GW
Agreed.
loves expensive,
and
so that makes it
and no
all
one
the more
it's
likely.
it's like the resin Rhino upgrade. Has anyone bought that? Like the command
I'm sure someone has. I'm sure someone has. Maybe not us in our play group or anywhere in the Southern California area, but I'm sure someone somewhere has.
But yeah,
I can tell you what I'm most looking forward to, and like I think you already mentioned it, getting breachers as a kit. I'd like them to be new kit, a unique kit, kind of like the Assault Squad is. Its own sculpt, its own setup, its own upgrades internally, just so it's one box with all the options you need for it. But I would love to see destroyers as an upgrade kit because right now we have no way to actually make fully plastic destroyers right now. But we do have a jump marine pack. We do have tactical squads. All they need is a kit just like the close combat sprue, where you get 20 bolt pistols, 10 left, 10 right, missile rad launchers, chem flamers, and maybe like the disintegrators. And they're already releasing them here. We see disintegrators on the screen right here. Put that all into one little upgrade kit for like $30, and I would be so happy just to be able to make plastic destroyers. because
Yeah.
I fucking hate trying to 3D print bolt pistols. I've yet to successfully print one of those because my printer for some reason hates me right now.
Go perform the correct sacred rites. I'm sure it will get working quick.
I've lit the incense. I've chanted the canticles of on and off. I've used the troubleshooting booklet of holiness. Nothing. It prints everything else fine, but for some reason the bolt pistol files I have are just absolute crap.
Sure.
I just want to touch on a few Legion specific things, and this would mean that they would probably be redoing the Liber Astartes and Liber Hereticus if they were going to change this stuff. So I know there's a lot of people who don't want that to happen, but honestly, like I would be okay with it because I do think a lot of the Legion rules kind of missed the mark from a theme perspective.
Yeah. I mean, like the Death Guard, I think I've heard people already talk about. Like that one feels kind of like a miss as far as like how mobile they are. They feel more just
Yeah.
like they're flying up the board almost at some point,
Especially
just
with
because they're so
tanks.
damn relentless.
The Death Guard tank list is insanely fast.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it would feel better if like a few legions got addressed. I mean, we can go through all of them, but I feel like people have already been doing that one, and like I'm happy to kind of highlight some specific ones.
Yeah, I know we don't need to go one by one, but I
Mhm.
definitely think you're right. Death Guard need to be fixed. Imperial Fists. I don't mind the rule of like +1 to hit with bolt and auto guns, but I do think they're everything else needs to be toned down, or at least I think it needs to be toned down for them, or other legions need to be able to have access to similar things. Like they're the only legion who has access to deep strike for all of their terminators if they want it. They're the only legion that has access to 3-up invuln saves. They're the only legion that has an independent character who is immune to instant death. There's just so many things that they have. Like them and the Blood Angels are the only ones who have access to
Illustus assault cannons
the
or something.
Elias Assault Cannons, which are fucking amazing. So they I know it's such a cliche at this point to rag on the but they either need to be toned down or other legions need to be given similar things. You know, for instance, the Thousand Sons, another one of my legions. I love them, and
Thousand
there's
Suns needs
ways
some
to make
help.
them good, but they're fighting with a major handicap. You
Yeah,
know?
because they're the only
Whoa.
one that has to do something to get their benefit,
Yeah.
and like especially if their sergeant goes away, then they're toast. So I think like if you just got to pick almost like Alpha Legion, where like you got like a certain, here are three things that each squad can pick, one for
Or like
each.
Dark Angels. Like Dark
Yeah,
Angels, every
exactly. Dark
squad, every
Angels.
unit has a thing.
I
And
was
that could
gonna
be what it is.
say
Like I don't know why it's almost the exact same type of rules, except the Thousand Sons can peril themselves, and the Dark Angels just automatically get it.
Yep.
I am gonna say as a Dark Angel player, as much as I love having access to all of our special rules at any given time, depending on how I build the list, I also hate the bookkeeping of it. I think the one thing I would love to see is them just blanket wash the Legion choice rule for them, which is, hey, pick one of the wings. That's your wing for the entire battle. Choose it before the start of the first round, but that's it. I would like, and then maybe make a Warlord trace the ability to change it up once per game. Because having to juggle between 5 or 6 modes can get very confusing, and to the point where I think Randy, you heard in our last game, it was I'm everything is this one ring. It doesn't matter what it is. It's this one ring. I figured it out so that everything is this one wing, and I don't have to worry about any other special rules.
Yeah. But that's also the nice thing about that is that's user choice. There are some people who might like being able to, because like for the Thousand Sons, I do give my squads Arcana that I think that would benefit them. The problem is that I almost never use it. Because on a leadership 8, it's not worth the risk of perils to
Especially with Night Fight and all this other stuff that
yeah.
gets in there.
So it's one of those things where unless I'm in a dire straits, I almost never use my minor arcana. I just disproportionately roll perils with my Thousand Sons all the freaking time.
You apparently are getting perils all the time and seized on all the time. Who's hurting you, Randy?
I think you need to
Yeah.
switch out your decks.
These sixes, they just haunt me. They haunt me. Can't get away from them.
I think one thing I'd like to see for the new Libra books is like small edit, but you kind of hit on it. I think there's a problem right now with not all legions being able to deep strike terminators, and I think a small solution is that in the previous edition, when you did a drop pod assault, you could deep strike all your Terminators, which made
Mm.
that list building a little bit more interesting because I think currently, right now, I have a problem where like every time I try to take that Rite of War, I'm like, well, I need to have some Charybdis or assault claws that are trying to drop my Terminators. And I think if that's, because every Legion in theory has Terminator teleport capacity, it's like how
Yeah.
readily they can use it and how pinpoint it seems.
I mean, but that's the
Um,
point. That's the whole point of Terminators is that like that's what you use
mhm.
them for, is
Yeah,
pinpoint deep strike into the heart of the action. So like every Legion should have access to deep strike for the Terminators. Like
it'd be
that's
awesome. They previously did in a lot of ways, so
yeah.
I miss those days.
Another
Agreed.
thing, which I don't, my guess is that they're not going to do this. This would be like a pie in the sky thing for me, but I really like the Black Shields, the way they do their oaths, where you can pick two oaths from that list. And I would like to see like instead of traditional rites of war for the legions, every legion had a bunch of different like traits, and you could pick two or three of them and that can help give your army like like the fluff and make it stand out as
Cool.
opposed to being like here's one or two rights of war you can pick from for your legion.
All I'm hearing
See, I
is
hear
make
you,
everyone
Randy.
Dark Angels. That's all I heard from your
No, but
That's
I'm
run.
not
kind of what
talking
it is.
about
Let's give everyone
every
three or four
squad
abilities.
having a different thing. I'm talking about for the Ultramarines, you have one where that makes suzerain into troops. You have one that makes your delegatus, I don't know, give deep strike or whatever. Like just things that like allow you to theme your list in a different way so that if you're running Ultramarines and you want to be themey, you're not only ever running Logos Lectura, you know.
Sure. I think that's just a problem of like all legions needing more rights of war. Like, and once again, there's some that get more than others. Looking at you, Dark Angels.
Six
Um,
rights of war, baby.
one of the earliest editions for third edition was the idea that rights of war were going away. And this is my nightmare right now is that rights of wars go away and basically like each type of legion is prescribed in these kind of certain ways they can fight. And I think it's gonna, if that's the case, I think it's gonna really limit us and like it's gonna kind of send us all back to the idea that like we have to do, the crusade detachment and like rights of war will really make us kind of all unique. So I think the idea that we just need more of them is kind of a prevalent um, case that I would make.
So actually, I got an idea for that. Add more rights of war, but link them to specific upgrades like Centurion upgrades, but for Praetors. So, for example, Destroyer list, we did this last year, tie it to an upgrade for the Praetor that makes them into a Siege Breaker or something, or into
Mm-hmm.
a more tat equivalent. I think that would be really cool for a new edition, or at least for a new Libra book, if they added like a Praetor upgrade like that, or at least some kind of adjacent upgrade that's required to take a Rite of War. Especially if you bring it to the legions, because if you make because each legion already has a centurion for the most part, with like I think two exceptions, two
No, they're
legions.
actually
A lot of
quite a
legions
few.
don't have special
There's
centurion,
about half
Okay,
of them that don't have them or
at
more.
least.
So like I think that's a
okay.
big problem right
Yeah,
now.
like
So centurion, more centurion options, and specifically ones that give Rite of War access, I think is what would solve that issue then for some of the legions.
yeah, I think actually having more customization at the Praetor level could be really cool.
Actually, to kind of segue into that, one of the things I do want to see is a scout slash recon rework because I think recons are kind of overplayed and we don't ever see scouts. But we have two Centurion console choices that could easily fix that. Like we have the I forget what his name is, but the one that no one,
Vigilator
the
and the
Vigilator
Pathfinder.
and the Pathfinder. If you could take a Pathfinder and now all your scouts have line or something, or now don't have the support squad type, and likewise with the Vigilator, you can now take recons or maybe actually not recons, maybe make it seeker squads and make them troops choices. I think that would be interesting.
But isn't that the recon Rite of War?
Does that
Uh,
make Scouts line though?
Scouts are not line at
Yeah,
all.
I know they're not line at all, but does Recon Company line or doesn't make them line, right?
No.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's the
Well,
problem with
once again, I
Scouts.
think that
Is
goes
that
back
like
to the idea that troops should be scoring objective
yeah,
security line.
Yeah.
not having line and having a 4-up save just makes Scouts not. worth it right now, unfortunately.
Mhm. And we have that beautiful new plastic kit from 40K that we could be using.
Yeah. I built some of the special Thousand Suns scouts with those, and I really like the way they look, but they're very overpriced.
They are. They're like $50 for a box. It's like
Well,
Jesus.
no, I'm not talking about that. I'm just about like the points costs.
Oh, the point.
They're
Okay,
very expensive.
I thought we were talking about the
And
actual dollar cost
and
here.
again, you have to pass a psychic test for the power to go off. They're only leadership 8. So
But 3-inch skirmish, keep them as far away from each other. No more blast
doesn't save them
templates.
from perils.
It does not, no. So continuing on the faction, I think we've hit Space Marines pretty well. The only special mention I'd like to give out is heavy weapon teams and contemptors. They just need reworks, I think, and I think everyone already knows that to hell and back. I
And
don't think we need to cover it.
tanks definitely need.
Oh, everybody's tanks needs
Yeah,
reworks.
and this isn't just Space Marine. Just tanks in general. Either they need to be able to react, or I think explodes results. Maybe like reinforced tanks, like take D3 wounds instead of it explode.
Just a rule rework in general with the tank rules, and I think the tank chart table would go a lot farther. But speaking of the armies that need tanks, Solar Aux. I think Solar Aux need not like a very special look at their vehicles, but also their cohorts and doctrines. Because I've played against a few times, and they really, really suck. They need a lot of help, honestly. I think they're almost their entire army setup needs a really hard look from GW to really make them much more interesting and much better than they currently are.
Yes, but I don't want them to be too much better. Because I think they should be worse than Marines. Like and I don't know if
Half the
off
Marine
about
armory is AP4 or better. They
but
already don't get armor saves. How much better do we
So
need to be,
I
right?
think I think if they made their Lehman Russes a little bit stronger and their Medusa, like make their vehicles a little stronger, like we talked about, it's just like fixed vehicles, great. That'll put them on a stronger footing already. Make Lehman Russes and Basilisk and Medusas do a little bit better because those are the bread and butter of the Solar Rocks. Like I'm never gonna
yeah.
count on a Solar Rocks las rifle squad to take down a tactical squad. Like that's not what I'm going to do. They're going to hold the line while the guys call in the Medusas.
Yeah. Which comes back to tanks just need to be better.
Mm-hmm. I
Exactly.
think there should be a distinction between blast and barrage because like there's always been this idea of like, does a blast template hit every level if you're hitting a building? Where I think there's a cool.
I mean, so that comes down to again sloppy rules writing because I had this come
Mhm.
up in a game like a week or so ago, and it doesn't like there is literally no place in the rule book that addresses that. Literally,
That
all it
addresses it.
says is that a blast hits everything underneath it, which
Mm-hmm.
if you're taking that literally means the entire
Right.
building.
So
Vertically up and down, no
what I
feet.
heard was the idea that is like a blast should hit everything under it, but a barrage hits everything below it as well. Like in the way that it hits all the levels. Then where like if you hit it with a blast, it would only hit that one level.
So I've always played it kind of like that for Barrage, which is, hey, Barrage should always, it's coming from above, so it should just hit the highest level on a ruin structure. But for Blast, same thing. Like it's at level of your aiming. So if you place it on the model, because you're supposed to place the Blast template on the model, whatever level they are, that's where the Blast template stays. If it veers off over another model, but it's on the same level, it explodes midair.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's in the
But that's
same
And
not
way
how
though
the
as like
rules
if a
written.
not
warlord
how the
titan
rules are
shoots at
written,
a
but
building.
that's how they probably should be written because I think that's
Sure.
how they intended it based on previous editions of their 40K. Like I think it was like fourth or fifth edition where it was written out explicitly, or maybe it was seventh.
That's what I'm saying. It needs to be written out explicitly because
Needs to be
right
a little
now
bit more
it's
explicit.
one of the many rules where it's very poorly written.
Mm-hmm.
I think Solar Ox would benefit from some kind of like shield unit. Like, so they have their axes that can kind of fight in close combat. I think they need some kind of like holding unit, almost like this the Sekutari hoplites. Just like something that has like basically defensive grenades, so like the enemy doesn't get a +1 to charge. Like they're just supposed to be there to absorb.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called
Um,
20-man blobs of men. They're there to
yep.
absorb this charge.
I think that they seem more specialized, and especially because they talk about the void warfare. Like there's the cool breacher, the Imperial Navy breachers that came out for 40K. Like
They're
imagine
good
that
ones,
idea of like
yeah.
having riot shields that are they're almost their version of breachers, but it's less of a Marine kill squad with breacher shields. It's a squad that's dedicated to be kind of that front line taking the fire.
Yeah.
You know,
Um,
that would be cool. I think that would be really cool to see some more because the Solar Aux book or section of the book is kind of thin, even with the newest
yeah.
Sentinels. So I would like to see more options.
Or like do plastic Ogrins because the Solar Rocks do have Ogrins, but like maybe take in the Bulwark ones from 40K where they have kind of the slab shields. Maybe make them as part of that kind of mentality.
You
Um,
know what, that is right because right now those Ogrins are only
yep,
usable in militia. They're not usable in Auxilia. So
yep.
seeing Auxilia have options for their Ogrins would be nice.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, I think another thing that I'd like to see just in general, once again, is just more characters in general. I
Oh,
think those are kind of the people that draw us a lot. And so like the Solar Rocks probably need a character or two. Um, I think the Mechanicum desperately kind of need one. Like Kelvor Howl seems like a really easy one, such a Newell, especially if the Dark Mechanicum come. And then like Arcade Land seems
oh
like a
yeah, that's
really
what I was gonna say. Like
cool.
Arkin Land with his little monkey,
Yeah,
I would
like
buy
that'd be
that model in a heartbeat.
I'd buy the heck out of that model.
I was say, speaking
Um,
of mech, I gotta mention one of my gripes now, which I'm hoping they fix, and that is how difficult the Mechanicum book is to go through and read through because their rules are all over the place. It is hard to find anything. Reed, I know you know this pain, but
well,
Jesus
you guys just
Christ.
saw me, in our game that we filmed last week. It was like I was struggling, and like they're not an easy army to play unless you play them consistently, which like I have definitely not over this last
I was
edition.
gonna say I've spent weeks rereading their rules just so I could play them for John's league, and I still was making mistakes. Like I completely forgot they have a 6-up feel no pain on the Thalexes. When you said that, I was thinking about it. I was like, "Fuck!" There's so many games where that would have saved my butt, keeping them alive with a 6-up feel no pain.
Also, speaking of mech stuff, knights, and this goes back to just tanks in
Oh my
general.
god,
Like,
yeah.
knights are practically an unplayable
It's
list.
like embarrassing to see anyone show up with them, honestly,
Yeah.
because they're
Hey,
just gonna
I
get
bring up
bodied.
don't they're not that bad.
And to add insult to injury, the fact that you lose victory points when they die, like I think that rule needs to go. Like Lords of War are like, unless they make them a lot harder to kill, it's just anyone who has decent anti-tank, they fall to
Hey, you
pieces.
say that, Randy, until I start bringing my falchion every game. We'll see how long your last cannon squad holds up.
Bring it, let's
So
go.
so on knights, I think that kind of just goes back to core rulebook. If they fix vehicle rules a little bit and make them a little more survivable, I think that makes knights more playable. And again, I'll get flack for this. I really like how knights were done for 8th and ninth edition because they had all the big knights being able to affect the armorers with an ability. I'd like to see that where you can give your special upgraded knight an ability that affects the armorers around it based on what you chose.
Yeah.
So, like for example, I think the most common one right now is the Ulahan, which gives a +1 ballistic skill and a reroll to your scatter die or something. I'd love to see that create like an aura field where armorers within 6 inches also get that +1 ballistic skill buff or things like that.
I mean, they do
That would be cool.
have
And I think there is one
like
though.
there are
There is
quest Source Knight
definitely
There's
household
Titanic Preceptor.
upgrades
there's
that
one that does
that
it.
give
I'd like
you
to see
like
them all
benefits
do
to
it.
armors. But they have to be I think they have to be like really close to it, don't they? They
It
have
could
to
be
be
like
like
6 inches or
6 inches,
something.
which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Um, for the knights, they also need the Dominus pattern. I don't, from what I understand in the lore, those are not new pattern knights. So like it's the up, we have the normal knight chassis. We have then the ones that are a little bit bigger that have like shoulder guns and like the harpoon.
Yeah, we need that
Um,
version in our games now.
because those in first they came in at the very tail of first edition. It's just like here's some online rules for you guys to take. So like the intention was at one point for them to be available, and them kind of ending up not being, I think, has also maybe hurt the knights because if those are the rear line firepower, then maybe that can help the frontline knights that have the chain blades that are not doing so well.
I get the spirit of, oh yeah, you know, soldiers on the ground are beneath their attention, but it just in game just doesn't play that way. they need to be able to pose some sort of a threat when they're being shot at.
No, agreed.
They're in a sorry state.
Yeah.
I think they just need a little bit. Like they're in a sorry state because there's so much stacked against them. Once you get a full rework of everything else, I think they're fine. But of course, that means everything else gets reworked, which GW probably won't do
I
because
mean,
this edition doesn't exist.
to that point, I do think there's a lot of rules that there's issues with them, but the fixes are not far off.
Oh
The
yeah.
one thing that worries me that I'm hoping is not the case is that they go overboard with overcorrections. Hopefully they
GW not overcorrecting Randy. It's
no.
like asking the sun not to rise in the morning. Come on,
Hopefully
man.
they like took a real look at what the issues are and made
Mhm.
steps to address them without completely disregarding the spirit of what we're trying to say.
Well, I think like we talked about this before. I think in our previous one where we talked about the idea of maybe there being a third, like second edition was their COVID edition. There definitely wasn't enough time to bake it. There was like by this point in the where we were like, are we getting a second edition? We all basically had the rules by this point, where they had leaked at that point. Like everyone had the pre-release rules, and we were play testing it. And once again, it was because it was COVID and there wasn't enough time. I really am thinking that this is more of a cleanup edition than a total rewrite, or that's what I'm going to keep hope with until I'm told different.
It's all a psyop, guys. It's all a psyop. This doesn't actually come out. They're just gonna announce something else entirely. They're gonna announce squats are coming to 30K on in 2 weeks.
Can only hope.
You know who we forgot to talk about? Our favorite golden banana boys, the Adeptus Custodes.
I actually think they're in a good place. Honestly, I do.
No, I don't think
I've
we
only
talked about
played
that
one
in this.
game, so I don't know
I,
enough.
having played with them and against them, I think that they're very strong, but they fall apart against good shooting.
I think they need some customization, like the ability that you take a shield captain that takes a form of the custodians, like they had to rotate. Like I can't pronounce any of them right now, but there are these the
Yeah,
different formations of the custodians and roles that they would play. You're able to take one that made the bikes as troops
yeah.
and made
Right.
and took a bike for the shield
Oh,
captain. Could be interesting.
you know what needs to be fixed with the custodians? I changed my mind. There's one thing that needs to be fixed.
Oh.
Meridian blades are so fucking good, so fucking cheap. They're cheaper than Paragon blades in the custodians,
Mhm.
like, which is insane because they're so much better than Paragon blades. I
Speaking
don't
of which, I need to go
understand it.
change my.
Like, I don't
I need to go
understand it. Like,
put mine on my custodies.
there's no like if you have a unit that's capable of taking Meridian swords, there's no reason for you to take anything but Meridian swords because they're just so ridiculously good.
What are the stats on those things again? I forget.
They're instant. So
There's three
they have three
profiles.
different profiles. There's only
Oh,
one that you
okay.
need to use because it's instant death.
Ah, yeah, take that one
And
always.
it's
That
like I
makes
think it's
sense.
like it's strength plus it's like strength plus one or two and it's instant death, something like that.
It's
And
really
it's
good.
naturally AP2 and they're all initiative five. So you're hitting at initiative five, strength like five or six, instant death. On I think they
Yeah,
have
that
four
makes
up,
sense.
but like yeah, they're disgustingly good. So that
Okay.
would be the one thing I would change is like not necessarily getting rid of that, but
Just tone it down a little bit.
not making it an auto take. Like make me actually like think about having to take it versus anything
Mhm.
else that they have available because they have a lot of weapons available to them. There's just no reason to take any of the other weapons.
Fair enough. I know they do have what is the full list of custodians? There's Guardian Spears, Guardian Axes, their weird pistol
Um,
blades,
The Hydrathic spear, like
like
there's the
yeah,
ones that have the Volkite, the
they could
the
take like
Melta.
Meltagun
any
Spears,
they could
yeah.
take any power weapons they want. They could take Solarite gauntlets.
Rank
The
10 Solarite
like
Gauntlets.
and they have Solarite talons too, which are just like better lightning claws. Yeah, their close combat is really good. Except against dreadnoughts. They struggle against dreadnoughts.
That's why they bring
But
their
who
own
doesn't?
dreadnoughts. That's true. Again,
Although I
going
gotta
back,
say, like I've had the worst luck with my Custodes dreadnoughts. I don't know why. They just like fail their rolls all the time.
You know
They,
what?
they do nothing.
They need a new paint job. Just go in, spiff them up, put some freehand work on them, get some extra filigree on there. They'll do better.
Also, oh,
It's
the other thing,
always
the Telemon is way overcosted.
yeah.
Telemon is more expensive than Leviathan and worse than Leviathan.
I know that these guys are a meme army, but GW, if you could also fix the militia while you're at it, we really appreciate it.
You know,
Yeah.
Like,
I think militia are in the same boat as Solar Aux, where they just need to have their vehicles given a pass over just to kind of help them out there, and then maybe just look at their army trait because right now they're the Providences. I think they just like you were talking earlier in earlier episodes and in the past with us, Reed. They need to just kind of go through them, make a list of like minor and major Providences where you can pair which ones you're allowed to pair with, and then maybe just give a pass on a few of them to help them either reduce their effectiveness or make them more effective. Because I think right now the only three people take is the industry one, which gives you lemon russes and squads.
because you kind of have to. Like, to
Right,
even get points at some points, like, I feel like I have to, you have to take a bunch of Lehman Russes just to fill, unless you have like 1,000 militia bodies.
right. And then the other one I think that people take is I think it's like veterans or something, the one that lets you take grenadiers as troops choices, which is pretty neat. And then the last one was it's not abhuman muster. It's I think it's the one that gives you +1 strength or something. I
It's
forget which one
plus one
that is.
toughness. I think you're talking about Kinfolk Helot.
That's the one, yeah, Kinfolk Hellet, yeah. Which I don't know of anyone who's actually gone and been mad enough to go buy however many boxes of Beastkin from GW. Because that's a lot of Beastkin bottles
Watch
at
out, guys.
50
I've been over
bucks.
here eyeing a Charge of the Light Brigade style, like 100 guys on cavalry just charging across the
I
board.
was gonna
I don't know
say,
if my
I
opponent would know
dare
what to
you.
do.
I dare you. Do it.
honestly, the idea of just like 40, 50 horse models as a militia list is like, they're gonna die in like 2 rounds, but it's gonna be so fun seeing
Oh, guys, I'll
50
send you my
Last
units.
list.
charge of the Rohirrim.
It's
There we go.
pretty funny. And here's the thing: is like there's that one militia warlord trait that if your warlord gets killed that turn, like everyone gets supercharged
But
because he's dead, and they're like, we gotta revenge him.
yes.
Have him charge out first.
Speaking of PDF lists, the demons need to be reworked. They
I
have
disagree with that, honestly. I think they're perfectly fine overall. I think the only thing they need to get looked at is their etheric dominions. I think those need to look at.
so,
That's it.
so my issue with them is they have a lot of units that are not worth taking, and 3 units that are way overpowered. And I think if they like tone down the overpowered units and they made their other units better, it would work. Because right now, like the archdemons and the what are the behemoths are just like so difficult to deal with.
And yet everything else is so easy to kill with just a couple last gun shots.
That's what I'm
And they're
saying.
so
Like you
samey with like the
bounce,
lesser demons. Like there's
yeah,
just no variety right now.
and
There's
like
no
also
That's
flavor.
them
true.
like being able to like have telepathy and have the it just makes them just so ridiculously overpowered because they're also like their initiative like 8, like strength 10, brutal 3, like it's what I was talking about earlier with like the challenges. Like if those things get into combat, like the only way to survive is to force them into a challenge. Like
That's
there's no unit in any other lists that is capable of withstanding attacks from those guys outside of a challenge. Like even certain
yeah.
Primarchs like will not survive against them.
I was gonna say I think a dreadnought like a Leviathan could probably take one of those and at least for a round or two before getting blown up.
I think they would have to be lucky to survive more than 1 round.
Not true.
Um,
But I think that kind
and
of works out well because I mean, for demons at least, it is just a bunch of horror nothingness that is easy to kill, but there's just so much of it. And then it's like, hey, these are some really bad demons. These are very hard to kill. Like you need to throw everything at it, which I think works really well, from a fluff standpoint. Like if
I
you
mean,
read
from a
Siege of
fluff standpoint,
Terra,
it does, but not from a gameplay standpoint.
the eternal argument is it fluffy or is it
I
balanced?
Mm-hmm. So what are we all working on until the release?
Why don't you start us off, Esteban? What you got going on?
I'm seeking therapy for my denial syndrome, is what I'm working on.
You're working on your mental health.
Beyond that, I'm actually just have my Adeptus Mechanicus that I've been trying to finish up. I've had zero motivation to finish painting them. They're all built. I actually managed to find two Krioses for really cheap from one of my local shops. So I've got basically everything to build my pure mech list without any bad nights. Sorry guys, I bring the most worst units in the game. But
Hey man, it's not that we're sad that they are. We're just embarrassed for it.
of course, of course. But I also have a bunch of Sons of Horus, and to count off, I've got two of the Astartes battle boxes, two Sicarans, a Kratos, an extra 20-man tactical squad, a bunch of three printed shields and weapons and chainswords, just a bunch, the transfer sheets too, and then just a bunch of other random stuff I printed just to try to build them up. Because I've been trying to figure out how to make, what is it, Long March work as a list, and now it's like, oh great, new edition. I don't have to worry about this problem because it's going to change anyway. So I'm just
Just
gonna,
build whatever you want.
nope, I'm just gonna put them in the corner until the next, until the edition releases, and I know what's changing and what's not changing. Hopefully, the Sardis books will just stay the same, and it's just, hey, look at this cool PDF that updates all the points. Here you go.
Also, here's some new units.
No,
Reed,
no,
what about
no,
you?
new units are.
Um, well, off screen right now, I'm putting on Lamy and Medium on 40 of my Salamander Tactical Marines. I'm trying to just do another transfer pass on these guys. I go in batches from here and there. But I sent a picture to the group today. I was painting a Herald, a Terminator Herald for my Salamanders. I'm going to the Heretical Hangout in Northern California at the beginning of next month, and I am bringing my Salamanders, and I'm going to bring a big Fire Drake Death Star with a Warmonger and a Herald deep striking in. It's going to be real nasty. I
Nice.
can't wait for it. It's taken me this entire edition to figure out, guys, I don't think Salamanders really benefit from the rights of war. So like I've almost been over here playing like, okay, guys, it's gonna work. It's gonna work. I swear to God. And I've been over here like, why are my salamander like? Because I had a really good win loss ratio in first edition, and then like second edition, and I was like, I'm kind of bad at this game now. So I'm hopeful third edition. It's my edition. Watch out.
Well, hey,
Um,
man, they've been talking about bigger flamer templates, man. It will be your edition.
I got my Hailstorm template in the closet. I can definitely pull it out and bring it to games more often if I have to. Yeah, I'm just excited to see it. I'm hopeful that there's more characters. I'll do some progress pictures and send it over to you guys, but I'm trying to do a big pass on my salamanders at the moment.
Yeah, I've been slowly chipping away at my Emperor's Children. I'm about like 2,000 points into a 3K list right now, and I'm also in that weird place. I'm like, do I keep going or do I wait for the new edition to see how things might change? Because I do have a lot of unbuilt stuff that so I don't necessarily need to buy anything new right now. I could kind of work on what I have. I just finished up, or I'm finishing up a Sakaran Arcus. Hopefully, if
I was gonna
if your
say,
printer is gets back, hopefully it can get the
thank you for reminding me to go
missile
download
launcher.
those files before I forget.
The rest of the Sakaran.
Just
Um,
just grab a Scorpius and just grab the missile bits from that. Perfectly acceptable. That's what I do.
yes.
Sometimes I've actually shown up to a game without my Arcus turret before, and I was like, well, I have my Scorpius turret. I'm just going to put this on here.
Just boop, and it's like, hey, look, it fits
I would
perfectly.
prefer not to pay
Very neat.
$60 for a turret.
Now, hold up. It's paying $60 for a turret, but it comes with a free Rhino.
Yeah, I mean, when you put it like that,
It's a steal. It's a free
You're
Rhino.
basically printing your own money at that point. So.
Really? Actually, you know what? It's funny because my friend is playing Emperor's Children in 40K, and he wanted a bunch of the Demos Rhinos, but he couldn't find any online. He's like, "Hey Esteban, the Scorpius kits, how close are those to the regular Rhino kit?" And I'm like, "Yo, I will buy those missiles off you, bro. Do it."
But
Uh,
yeah, I think that kind of we're maybe a little bit all over the place there, but I think at the end of the day, I'm excited. I really am. I like the box got me like I've been excited to see that box for months for like all that like I was a
Same.
believer in the rumors. I've been saying to these guys for a long time that I believe this is coming, and I'm very excited that it's almost here. And I can't wait to read the new rules. And I'm I think I have a mostly positive look at on it. I really hope and do think it's gonna be good. And
Hmm.
I think it'll be like a good injection for the community because it feels like for the last few months people have been like, well, if there's a new edition coming, do I want to start something right now? Do I want to wait? I don't know.
Right.
You know,
Why I hate rumors of new editions the most. Everyone stops playing because they're like, well, new edition soon, so why bother?
so yeah, hopefully this injects some excitement and adrenaline into the community and gets people going. Let us know what you guys have on your wish lists, if there's anything in particular that you'd like to see or not see in the new edition. And we'll catch you guys next time. I have a Zone Mortalis game that these guys shot last week that I need to finish editing, so that'll hopefully come out soon as well. But like, subscribe, comment. We'll see you guys soon.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Send me proof that this is all psyop. I know it is. Send me your proof. Send it to the email. Okay, bye.